I'm now just swept away. So in taking this and putting, you rule. In taking this and creating just this world, now bringing it to the screen, how involved were you in bringing the story to a visual medium?
Okay, basically I said yes when Jim Colbert asked for an option, and everything kind of rolled uphill from there. Jim is our other executive co-producer who first took an option on my books with the idea of making a 2-hour feature film out of them. Several tries convinced him that this couldn't actually be done, and he then decided to try television. And Ron had been lying in wait for just such an opportunity. So Ron took it to Sony, who said, yeah, okay, let's do this. And in turn, ended up with Starz in their capable hands. And so that's how we got to where we are now.
It looks absolutely gorgeous, just the photos. Now, the first photo from Outlander was shown on the web. And please indulge me, Sean O'Neill from the AV Club had this to say about the picture. I don't know if you've read this yet, Ron. But it says, Ronald D has begun shooting his new series Outlander, an adaptation of the novel about World War II combat nurse who mysteriously finds herself in 18th century Scotland. But Moore should just wrap production, save Starz the money by handing in this set photo, which the networks could run in hour-long blocks every week, showing Moore's lustrous, windswept locks appearing in such close proximity to swords. This photo is already
right.
I'm sorry?
He is, of course, right.
He's completely, absolutely correct. What drew you to Outlander?
It was a great story. Good characters. My wife, Terry, and my producing partner, Meryl, and I were having dinner in Vancouver a few years ago. We were talking about, what the next project could be after Battlestar Caprica, and they both started talking about this book that they had read and didn't realize that they both loved it, and I had never read it, and they both just sort of insisted that I read this book. And I was just very taken with it. I love history, I love historical fiction, so I was swept into the period. Great central character in Claire, really good story, well told. I liked all the twists and turns of the plot. I just saw it, and I was like, I want to see the show, and I can see it as a television series. So it was an easy sale for me.
You're both very adept at the relationships and how they grow and change, regardless of the setting, regardless of how they got there throughout it. Is that something that first appealed to you when reading the book, Ron?
Definitely. There's a great relationship at the heart of the entire franchise, really. Claire and Jamie, are the only characters really run through everything. And I was just very taken by the way that relationship is drawn in the first book and the way it developed. I like the fact that she took her time to develop it, that it wasn't a standard issue kind of romance sort of thing. I love the triangle through time. That was kind of cool and intriguing. And I could just feel like those are scenes I want to write, those are scenes that would be fun to shoot, and you can just kind of play the show in your head.
Is there any kind of trepidation with working with the author, and conversely, was there trepidation of having your characters being written by someone else?
Well, you're always a little antsy about it, but I had seen a lot of Ron's work, and I very much appreciated the way he approached it. He and his production partner, Merle, came out to my house and spent 2 days with me talking through the story, the storylines, the characters, the backstory, things that I knew that weren't necessarily in the book, and sharing with me his ideas about adaptation. And for instance, he said, we want to treat the material as faithfully as we can, but at the same time, you want to adapt it for a visual medium. So, for instance, where the story begins, of course, with Claire and Frank going into the Highlands. Says this is a very slow opening, and it works fine in a book because the language will pull you along. But we want something kind of more riveting, and I see Claire as the central character of the story. She's telling the story, it's her story. And so we need to see her immediately in a very vivid and convincing way. So I'd like to start with like a 2-minute prologue where we see her during World War II, in a military hospital, blood spurting, limbs hacking, and putting people back together. See, I see you all nodding. That's what I was doing. That's a great idea. So this is the sort of thing that convinced him that he would in fact be a responsible curator of the story.
Were you nervous, Ron, with talking with the author? And
sure, you don't know what that relationship's going to be. You don't know what the expectation levels are, but it was a great weekend, and it was an easy conversation, and I knew going in that I did want to do a very faithful adaptation of it, so I knew that was probably going to be received well, and it was pretty simple after that to just talk in story terms, and okay, what about this and that, and there were things that we wanted to know, things that were in our head, what certain backstories were, what if, had you ever thought about this aspect of it, and if we have something over here happening, and I mean, our general philosophy on the show in the writer's room is we always start with the book version of any event or any scene, and then you kind of see how it lays out, and sometimes you have to adapt or switch things around just to make the episodic structure work. Or if we're adding something, we usually add something that's either implied by the material, like the World War II field hospital scene, or something that could have been happening simultaneously, and to kind of fill out an episode or give you a different point of view on something. But we're always sort of tacking back into where the book takes us. You're always staying in the lane. You're never really just, oh, okay, now we're just going to reinvent the story, because it doesn't need to be reinvented.
How familiar were you with that actual history of Scotland during that time period?
Not very. I mean, I love history, but that was not a period that I was that familiar with. So when I was reading it the first time, I was sort of enjoying the fact that I was learning a lot about Scotland in the period, and it was just kind of fascinating.
That was my favorite thing when you're reading something and you find a fact and then people just think, oh, they think you're smart. You're like, no, I read this in a book or something. Nice. Now, Ron, you have a photo presentation?
Oh yeah, we've got some things to show you. They're more concept art really than direct photos.
We'll take it.
If my remote.
By the way, there's some great models of set pieces upstairs. If you haven't seen them, please go up and do it. They're phenomenal.
This is concept art for Castle Leah. I think that we've added into the show that is not in the book. Is a change in that, for those of you who know the book series, Claire and Frank are in the Scottish Highlands on sort of the second honeymoon, reuniting after the war. And Frank's taking her around and showing her things, and he's also there researching his own genealogy. And one of the things we did in the show was, I thought it would be interesting if they actually went to the ruin of Castle Leah early, so that later when she's actually goes to Leah, she's been there, she's walked through the halls, and she's seen the place. So this is going to be, this is a rendering of the actual castle that we're going to use, Castle Doune, in Scotland. And so for the section in 1945 when they go, we will digitally erase big chunks of the actual castle and sort of give it this feeling to it. And then it'll look like this, or a version of this in the 18th century. So that's, again, that's the real castle in the background as it actually is today. And then the foreground elements are all, this is all just concept art. None of this is photography, obviously. This is the courtyard of Leah. And there's another sort of angle on it as sort of in the plan. We haven't started shooting at Leah yet, obviously. Obviously, I guess. We just started shooting this week. We started shooting on Monday. The very first scene we shot was the World War II field hospital. And this week we've been working our way through the 1940s. This is concept art for surgery, where Claire, this is her home. This is where she works in Castle Leah. Again, this is artist concept art, but it's going to be very similar to this. The set is almost complete on the stages now. It's an interior set that we're going to build on. We have two very large sound stages in Scotland that we're building most of the interiors on. Something like this, you could theoretically shoot a location at a real castle. However, the castles themselves are historic monuments, and it's very difficult to shoot interior there because you have lights, you have equipment. There's a lot of restrictions on what you can and cannot do. It's a lot easier for us to build this and have complete control over the set than it is to try to shoot it at an actual castle. This is another angle on the surgery or the apothecary shop, as we tend to call it. And then this is the stable, where there's many scenes with Claire and Jamie meeting out by the stables. There is a very large pasture where the photograph of this was originally is in a big open green field. You can really actually see the castle in the distance, so we're going to play it, the actual relationship between the two. This is another angle on the stable. This has gone through some modifications since it's going to be a little bit bigger than this drawing in actuality. This is Lollybrook. This is Jamie's ancestral home. It doesn't look like it, but this is actually concept art as well, because there's an actual structure there. That gate is about half complete. It's a bit of a ruin sitting on another estate. There's no interior floors to this building, so we'll be having to construct the interior on the sound stages as well. This is a different angle, sort of on the other side of that gate, also showing you along the brook. And, oh, who are those two? I don't know, I can't tell them. They're so far away.
Do you really not know?
I don't. These people wandered on our set, but that's what we have to show you so far.
That's amazing.
Woo!
And what's a lot of themes you created and themes you put together as these concepts for the first time?
Yeah, I think they're fabulous. You know, they're very close to the actuality. I say the actuality in my head, and they're certainly close enough.
Let's turn over now. I know you've been dying to ask. We got some questions. She's right here. He's right here. Questions about Outlander, what they can talk about. We're not sure. Remember, we just started shooting last week, so maybe a little bit of a break. Okay? Start with you. Go right up.
I'm excited